Hello everyone, welcome back to Tech 411. Today we're going to be taking a look at the ESET Home Security Essentials. This is going to protect your machine from viruses, spyware, and also has a lot of other really cool security features. The link to all the products shown in the video will be down in the video description, so make sure you check down there. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay everyone, so the first thing we're going to do is get some coffee. And we're going to go on to our desktop here, and I've already got the website pulled up, but you're going to download the ESET Home Security Essentials software first. I've got our website pulled up, and if I click here, it will take me right to the site. And when we're on the site here, we can purchase a subscription, and you can see for the premium, which is the minimum I recommend. If you can, the ultimate really gives you the ultimate in protection. But the premium is really good, and you get the software on up to 3 different devices for $69.99, so that's basically $20 a device. Very good value for a year of protection. So through the magic of video, I'm going to download the software and then come right back in a second. Okay, so we're back on our desktop here. Once the download's completed, we're just going to double click this. Once we get to the setup screen here, we're going to check off these first 2 boxes. The third one is optional. That's the Customer Experience Improvement Program. Completely optional. They do collect information, and you can view the information that they collect as part of that program by clicking the link below. We're not going to do that at this point. We're going to click Continue. We don't want to click Allow All and Continue because that'll opt us in here. So we're going to say Continue. When you get to this next screen, it's going to ask you to enter your email address and password for your ESET account. It's going to allow you to activate the software. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then come right back with you. And once that's completed, it's going to confirm the version of the product that you're activating. Today we're doing the ESET Smart Security Premium. If you have a higher tier product, that product should show up here. We're just going to say Continue. And once the product's installed, we're just going to click on Done. Now it's going to open up the software. It's going to do an initial scan to make sure you have a nice clean system. It's also going to update itself, and that process can take some time. But I'm going to show you all the settings here in a minute to show you really how much this product can do. Now here we are at the Smart Security screen, and we can see that we're going through the initial scan. The product will also update itself as part of this process. We have a set of tools here that are included with our subscription. You can see there's a lot of tools here. And we have the setup. Now, with this particular product that we have the premium product. That's the middle product I showed you in the beginning of this video. We have 4 pieces to this product. We have security tools, network protection, internet protection, and computer protection. So we're just going to go through these one by one. I will put chapters down at the bottom of this video, so if you want to skip around to different sections, you can do that from there. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the computer protection. And in the computer protection, we have a real-time file system protection, pretty standard for any antivirus product. We have the ESET Live Guard, okay? This is to protect you against brand new emerging threats. We have proactive protection. And what this is going to do is this is going to catch files that you may download that ESET probably hasn't seen before. It's going to stop you from opening them momentarily. It's going to inspect them first and make sure they're safe for you. And then once it's verified that they're safe, it'll allow you to go ahead and open the file. This is a really good protection mechanism because antivirus and anti-spyware software doesn't always know about every threat that's out there. So this provides you a really high level of protection. We have device control. Now this is disabled. We have host intrusion prevention. So this is going to prevent unwanted behavior from applications. We have gamer mode. So if you're a gamer, you can turn on gamer mode when you're in a game, and it will optimize your security protection for your gameplay. It kind of tells you what it does here. We have ESET Folder Guard. This is basically going to prevent malware and untrusted applications from damaging your data. We also have webcam protection, so I'm sure a lot of you will appreciate this. This protects your webcam from misuse and spying attempts. Basically, it will pop up notifications when an application has tried to access your webcam, and it'll tell you what it did. It'll give you the option to either allow or block that access. So you're going to be notified anytime your webcam is being accessed. And this is very useful if you're concerned about applications utilizing your webcam without your knowledge. We can also down here at the bottom pause our antivirus and anti-spyware protection. So if we go to the right of each one of these items, we can see a little settings cog. So let's go into the real-time protection and click on configure. And this is where you can see just how powerful this product is. So we have real-time file system protection. This will scan any media that you connect to the device, such as network drives, removable media, and local drives, to make sure they're clean and virus-free before it allows you to start utilizing them. And anytime you see something and you want to know more about it, you can hover over this little info icon here on the right. This here tells us when it's going to do a scan. So it's going to scan anytime we go to open a file, when we go to create a file, when we go to execute a file or open an application, or when we have removable media boot sector access requests. Okay, so that's important. We can exclude different processes. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that, but we can manually add things in here to exclude. In certain circumstances, you may want to exclude things, but I don't recommend you do that because it can compromise the security of your system. Next, we have threat sense. Okay, this is going to scan the runtime packers and boot sectors, okay, for rootkits, bootkits, and other malware. So that is important. You want to leave that on. Heuristics, you want that on. You can turn on advanced heuristics cleaning level. So this is going to determine what the application does when it needs to clean something that it's detected. We have 4 options. We have always remedy the detection, remedy detection if safe, keep otherwise, remedy detection if safe, ask otherwise, or always ask the end user. I recommend you leave this at the default. This will remove any viruses that are detected as long as it's safe to do so. If it's unsafe, it will ask you. So that's a good policy in my opinion. If you don't choose that one, always remedy detection would be another option. We can also exclude certain file extensions from scanning. We have smart optimization. Okay, provides the most efficient combination of system protection and scanning speed. Then if we drill down a little bit further, we have limits. Okay, archive scanning settings and object settings. This you can set limits on how large of a file it will scan. If it's larger than that, it won't scan it, that kind of thing. We can leave these at the defaults unless you have a good reason to change those. And additional threat sense parameters. Okay. Next, we have the ESET Live Guard, and again, we can go into each one of the settings here. What I'll probably do is just go through all these with you. So the ESET Live Guard is enabled, and these options here are going to be how it deals with something that it detects. Okay, action after detection, it's going to kill the running process and perform a clean. You can also set it to clean on the next file access. I don't recommend you do that. This is the best protection here. Then for proactive protection, this is going to be when it grabs a file that it hasn't seen before. It's going to block you from opening that file until the results of the analysis are available. You can allow execution immediately, but I don't recommend you do that. The default option is going to provide the highest level of security for your system. Maximum wait time for the analysis result. It has 5 minutes here. Again, that's a good default setting. You can set that to longer or shorter. I don't recommend you set that to shorter. Give them some time to analyze the file. We can also send automatic submissions, and we have a special setting for documents. Okay, documents can be sensitive. I do recommend you change this. ESET doesn't need to keep these documents on their servers for 30 days. So after analysis, we want them to immediately remove the file. If we go up here to cloud-based protection, this is going to be some of the information that gets sent back to ESET. Okay. You can turn some of these off if you have privacy concerns. I do recommend you put a contact email in here. Your contact email will be included with any submissions and may be used to contact you if further information is required. You will not get a response from ESET, so don't expect that. But I feel most of the time it's helpful to include the contact email with the submissions. And next we have submission of samples. And this just determines all the different file types that we're going to submit. And then it's going to ask us when we want to delete those things. We don't want it to never delete them from ESET servers. We want any files that we send them to be deleted immediately after they're analyzed. We also have exclusions here. And we have a maximum sample size, which is set to 64 megabytes. I recommend you keep the default setting there. And we're just going to click OK to that. We will be asked to grant administrative rights to make these changes. We're going to say yes. Again, back at this screen, we can go into each one of these settings directly here. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to go into the advanced setup and go through each one of these options in here. We've already been through a lot of these. So under the detection engine, the first thing we have is exclusions. And we can have performance exclusions and detection exclusions, okay? And right now we don't have anything in here. And I don't recommend you put things in here unless you have a good reason to do that, because it will compromise the security of your system. This is the anti-malware scan interface, okay? And we also have a network traffic scanner. Cloud-based protection we already looked at. And under malware scans, we can choose what type of scan type we want to run. Smart Scan is the one I recommend. We have profiles, okay? We have Smart Scan targets. Detection responses for on-demand scans. So these are scans that we run on demand. And you can go in here and customize some of these. And if you turn off use detection responses for these on-demand scans, you can go in here and customize this, but I just leave that on there. And see, we have a ton of options here. We have idle state scanning, and idle state scanning is really good because it'll detect when your computer is idle, and it'll do the scanning while your computer is idle instead of doing it while you may be using it. We can turn that on. And we can also set it to run even if the computer is being powered from the battery. I don't recommend you run it while it's on battery because it will definitely reduce the life of your battery. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And if you do have that on, you can choose when idle state detection is going to happen. For example, when you log off, when you lock the computer, when you turn off the screen or the screensaver comes on. And if we go under Threat Sense, we have all of our options down here. So these are options for all the different scan types. So the startup scan, this is what I typically like to leave on for sure, is the startup scanning. So it will scan every time you restart the system, it's going to initiate a scan. Some folks may not want that, but I think that's a good policy to scan the computer each time it starts up. Next, we have removable media. And if we go here, this is going to be when you insert like a USB thumb drive, for example. You're going to have three different options here. Do not scan at all, automatically scan, or show scan options. The default is to show scan options. I do recommend you scan the drive if you haven't connected it to your computer before, especially if it's from another machine. You want to scan that at least the first time you connect it to your computer. So the two recommended options here would be either show scan options or automatically scan the device. Next, we have document protection, and we can enable this. This option enhances the protection of Microsoft Office documents, and it's usually not required under normal circumstances. So we leave that at the default, which is off. Next, we have HIPS, and this is your host intrusion prevention. You can leave this at the defaults. If you do want to go in here and change anything, I don't recommend that you do that again unless you have a good reason to do so. This is also going to be where you have your ransomware shield, and I definitely want you to make sure that that's on, because that happens to people a lot, and it's something that could cause you a lot of problems. Lastly, we have the advanced setup here, and we can notify when changes occur in startup applications, which I think is important. We have a list of drivers that are always allowed to load. So you can see here, this is a very powerful software to protect your system. It's going to protect you from malicious drivers, all kind of stuff. And under update, we have profiles, and this is basically just going to determine how updates happen on your system. You really don't need to go in here and change anything. I recommend you just leave this at the defaults. Protections. Okay, this is going to be all the settings for the different detections. And you can choose from 3 different settings: aggressive, balanced, or cautious. Okay? And cautious is basically going to minimize falsely identified objects, but it's also going to potentially compromise your security. So you want this to be at least balanced, and if you so choose, you can set it to aggressive. Now, on potentially unsafe applications, network access protection, I think auto is probably the best profile for everyone. We do have, you can go in here and edit the profiles. Right now we just have public and private. We also have IP sets. And when we go into IP sets here, we can see that it's got all the private addressing in here. So that's going to minimize any alarms that you get for those kind of things. We have a firewall. This is going to be really useful on your mobile devices, especially if you're in a hotel or somewhere else where you have Wi-Fi. You don't know how secure that Wi-Fi is, or if there may be someone else on that Wi-Fi doing malicious things. It's really good to have that firewall. Again, all the defaults are usually good here. It will also evaluate the Windows firewall rules. So if you've already been using the Windows firewall and you have rules set up in there, you're not going to have to completely reset those rules up in here. It will evaluate those by default. And we have network attack protection. Again, all of these should be left to their defaults unless you have a really good reason to change them. A lot of powerful stuff in here. And we have some additional securities in here that we can set for example, SMB would be a file sharing protocol. So you can basically deny older versions, which can be less secure. Don't recommend you do that, but we have that option there. Next, we have SSL and TLS. So this is going to scan any communication that's done over SSL and TLS and alert you if there's something malicious going on. Email client protection. If you use an email client, this software will also protect incoming and outgoing emails coming into and going out of your email client. And in here you can set all those options. They do also have an advanced spam scanner. They do have integrations into Microsoft Outlook. And under address list management, we can go in here and just basically a safe senders list. Okay, it's not going to perform any actions on those that are deemed to be safe senders unless you have this option turned off to treat addressees from the address book as trusted. And a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory options for the email. The web access protection, again, we want to leave all these turned on and at their default settings unless you have a good reason not to do that. So if you want certain websites to always be blocked, you can come in here and do that. It's going to scan secure web traffic. Then of course we also have the threat sense settings in here, and we have parental control. So you can turn on parental controls for other user accounts on the system. If I turn those on, I can edit, and then I can select the user accounts that I want to enable parental controls for. If you have other household members that use that device and you want to be able to control their access, you can enable that over here. That doesn't apply to us, so we're going to turn that back off. Browser protection, definitely something you want to enable. As part of this package, you do get a browser plugin. Now we're using Brave here. If you haven't seen my video on Brave, check the video description. I'll put a link to my video on Brave down there. It's a really good privacy-focused web browser that's based on Google Chrome. So it's going to operate very similar to that. But they do also include a plugin for Google Chrome, which includes Brave and any other Chrome-based browsers, that gives you additional protections on the web. And you can see all the different settings here. And under device control, we can turn this on. And what this is going to do is allow us to specify different rules for different devices. So for example, we can go in here and add a device. Let's say I want to restrict access to the CD or DVD drive. I'm going to say block. And the criteria type is going to be device. And I can edit the user lists and so on and so forth. And we can also notify the user. Okay, I'm not going to enter anything in there. This is especially useful if you have other folks using your computer and you want to minimize the potential for any problems that might result from that. The last thing we have is the webcam protection I talked about, and definitely want to keep that enabled. And under rules, we can go in there and edit the rules, and we have no rules in here currently, so we don't see anything. But when you add an application from the pop-up that happens, that will show up in there. And we can disable webcam access alerts for modified applications. Next, we have tools. So we can actually get notified about Microsoft Windows system updates. And we have 5 different options here. The default is critical updates. We have important updates, recommended updates, optional updates, and no updates. I always set this to recommended updates. Next, we have the ESET CMD. The ESET CMD is going to be for advanced users. It allows you to do some things on the command line and things like that. For the purposes of the video, we're not going to get into that. We can customize our log files. The defaults usually work here. We have our gamer mode. We can choose to disable gamer mode after a certain period of time. And we have diagnostics. Next, we have connectivity. So if you use a proxy server, you can change that here. User interface, this is where we're going to set our color mode. We can set a password to password protect this interface. Again, if you have other folks that are using this computer and you don't want them to be able to change these settings without your permission, you can set a password here, and that password will be required anytime they go to make changes. Next, we have notifications. Here we can customize the types of notifications that we receive. Forwarding. This is if you want to receive email notifications. You can set up an email account in here and it will send emails. Lastly, we have our privacy settings, and all that's going to do is allow us to choose whether or not we want to participate in the Customer Experience Improvement Program. We're not going to do that. We're going to say OK. That is the settings. We can import and export settings. This is going to be useful if you plan to move to a different computer. So you bought a new laptop or desktop and you want to move all of your settings over to that computer. If you have a bunch of customized rules and things set up in ESET, this allows you to easily export those and import those into another computer. It's also useful if you're installing on other devices. As part of your subscription, you get 3 devices. So you can set all the settings in one device and export that, import it into your other 2 devices to make setup a little bit easier. Next, we have tools. And under tools, we can get a security report. So I think this is pretty cool. So it tells us how many applications it scanned, how many other objects. And it's telling us that we can strengthen our protection. For example, we can secure data, turn on parental controls, and we can enable something called anti-theft, which is something that was really good for laptops because it will actually provide you some protection if somebody steals your laptop. I'll put more information in the video description about the anti-theft features. We have network connection. We have ESET System Inspector. So this is going to collect detailed information about your system. We have a scheduler. If we go into System Cleaner, this is going to tell us some things that have changed from their defaults and allow us to reset those settings. So if somebody went onto your computer and changed a bunch of settings and you want to be able to reset those back to the correct settings, this area in here keeps track of what they did and allows you to easily reset. We have a network inspector. So this is going to check the security of your network. We can submit things for analysis, and we can also look at the quarantine. This is where you're going to come if something gets blocked and cleaned and you want to see what it was or restore it for some reason. Don't recommend you restore anything from the quarantine unless you're absolutely 100% sure that it will not harm your system. And if we go back to the overview, you can see that we have some additional items here that we can set up. We also get a password manager. I'll go over that in another video, but we also get a password manager as part of this Essentials package. And if you get the top package, then you will also get some additional features that you can set up. So as you can see, it's a very good product, going to provide the highest level of security to your device. Okay folks, so that's going to do it for this one. What do you think about the ESET Home Security Essentials? Let us know down in the comments section. Remember to check the video description for a link to the product. When you use our links, it does help support our channel and we really appreciate your support. As always, remember to click on subscribe and then hit that bell notification icon so you get notified anytime we add new content. And if you hit thumbs up, it helps us and other YouTubers find our content just a little bit easier. As always, folks, thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.